Hi, I'm Elisabeth Dawson, and thank you for tuning into our show, Ways to Love Your Money. I have a wonderful guest and a great friend of mine. His name is Michael Worch, and in 2005, he founded Worch Financial Group. It has been through this venture that he continues to enhance and deliver personal and financial services to the community. Michael was a college football player at the University of Maryland, which has led him to work with many professional athletes and sportscasters. He was also a member of the U.S. Marine Corps, so thank you so much for your service, Michael. As a demanded public speaker, Michael educates and empowers people to choose and secure their financial future through strategic planning. So again, without further ado, I'm going to welcome my dear friend Michael, and thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you, Elisabeth.
Yes. So we're here talking about our show, Ways to Love Your Money. And I know from your perspective as well as mine, and you're a financial, expert out there and a thought leader, which is incredible. And you're out there in Maryland, which I'm here in San Diego, so it's great. But we've been very good friends for a really long time, and just honored to have you here and to share your wisdom with people. So
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I know.
Although I'd rather San Diego.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you would too. But it's been raining the last couple of days, so you're probably doing better than we are right now. But I don't know. I know that polar vortex is what's been, making people really cold out there. So
it's pretty cold.
Yeah. So I know from a standpoint of, even with the book, Wealth by Design, this is something where we've talked about a lot of things that we have in common and also people that we meet with. And it's about designing your ideal life. And what would you say to people today about how they should, kind of go about designing their ideal, financial life for their future?
Well, it takes work, and it does take designing it, right? You can't just put it at chance. You can't just risk it and just hope that, I'm doing what's right or what's correct. I really believe that you have to take the time and effort to find avenues and ways to allow your money to work for you. And we've always said, money is really just a means to an end, and we're not going to let money define us. And the only use there is to having money is the use of that money. So what we strive to do is make sure that our clients are looking at how they can use their money in a better way, in a better fashion, and design it so it can account for everything. And we know clients lie. You know that. I know that they think one thing, but they never plan for, God forbid, if I got disabled, or
right.
God forbid, in a car accident. And whether it's a car accident or whether it's starting their own business or leaving the law firm and starting their own law practice or what have you, we want to make sure that they are putting themselves in the best position so their life can unfold with no matter what happens in life, because we know everything can just happen.
Well, and I think what you're saying too, and this is something that we've discussed many times, it's about, planning for every possible, outcome. Of course, we never want anything bad to happen. Of course, we never want what we call life to happen. And we want to make sure that we're doing everything that's so structured. But it's hard to think about those things. I mean, people have so much anxiety about when they talk about money and just the creation of money, but let alone, the accumulation phase of money is so different than the actual distribution phase of money. When we start to take money out because we're retired now, there's still things that we have to be mindful of.
Well, as you know, Declan, my fourth child, got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes this time last year. So it's been 1 year. Right. So it's taken a lot of my time, my wife's time, away from me accumulating money. Because I'm out of the office a lot. It's been a whirlwind for everybody, the brothers, the sister, aunts, uncles, everybody. So if that's true, then what I need to do is make sure that my money is working as best it can. And the principles that we talk about are velocity of money. So if we can make $1 work as $2, $3, $4, $5, but along the way pick up 2 or 3, 4, 5 additional benefits, maybe the 2 years that it's taken my family and myself to get used to having a disease penetrate the family gives me the opportunity to not have to worry about, oh my God, I'm never going to retire because I'm missing some really good years of accumulating assets. And so, God forbid, stock market drops, or God forbid, you get disabled or you get laid off or something happens to people. They panic. They have the anxiety that, oh my God, I'm never going to get there. I hear everybody say, I've got three, if I miss 1 year, it's going to be this much more in retirement.
Right, right.
But, we look at it and I look at it saying, when you're young and we're accumulating money and we're, on the upswing, we don't have the luxury to take risk. We have to make sure every dollar that we are investing and putting away is going to be there, plus growth and return.
Correct.
On the other side of it, when you're coming and distributing money, you should be wealthy and older, and the kids are out of the house, and you've already paid for cars and homes and colleges. That's when you can take risk. And I think a lot of people think like the only way to really drive income is stock market and take risk.
Right.
And I really believe that the fundamental issue with Americans, or just people in general here in the United States, is that their fundamental philosophy about saving money is 401k in the stock market.
Sure.
We're talking about saving dollars. And when and my wife always makes fun of me because I said, when you're on the plane, it says, cover yourself first, then the children.
Right.
Well, we have to do things for ourselves personally and for clients that protect them. And one of the biggest things that we can give them is a major savings component that, as you know, is the moat that will protect the castle. And
right.
That's what we strive
and I
to
think
do.
that's really important for us to talk about that, because it's also about having liquidity, use, and control of our money when we do have a life-altering event happen. Especially when there's a child and there's a sickness there and there's something where it's completely changing of your life, or it could even be a parent that you start to have to take care of because that parent is now kind of dependent on family to make sure that in a long-term care type of situation that they don't want to go to a facility, they want to be cared for by family. So we're in that sandwich generation, but that's why I call it life happens, and we need to be prepared for it.
It does. And one of our mentors, we've got a lot of the same. One of them, Chuck McDowell, always talked about savings accounts. And people were saying, well, it's a small rate of return. And he always said, when liquidity meets opportunity, it becomes a high rate of return.
Yes.
And so we had today in the office a 70-year-old female who got sent to us, which is not my typical client. She's single, no kids, nothing. It's my accountants said, can you help her?
Okay.
And all her money was in IRA. She had basically Social Security and all this money in IRA. She had nothing outside of savings.
Wow. Okay.
And we're trying to design a way that she can't outlive money, and we'll do that, but it's going to be part-time work for her, and she knows it. But the conversation when she left is, how does someone end up in this position? It wasn't even that much money. Did she not save? Did there something happen? I haven't gotten to that issue with her, but those things go through my mind because I think it's important, whether it's a husband or a spouse dies prematurely.
Right. We talk about that a lot. Mm-hmm.
Do they have life insurance to cover the funnel? Is the funnel's probably not full because the guy's 35 or 51 and he hasn't finished his working years. And they spent a lot of money on sports with 4 kids. I know how much money my wife spends on sports and sports camps and tutors and all kinds of stuff. We just spent $2,000 on an SAT prep course. I almost died like Bill.
I've done that twice, so I feel your pain.
You wonderful kids, successful, and so it matters. And so you and I see the impact when a client dies, with the whole family, monetarily speaking. And it is devastating when they don't have enough money.
Right.
It's a very easy job to manage emotions when there's a large check, when it's a younger family that, especially if it's the breadwinner who dies early and there's no money coming in, or they had a work policy for $375,000 or even $600,000, it's just never enough.
It's never enough.
Never enough. And when the clients ask us, what's enough? Well, the enough is the max. And how do you know? There is a max that you can figure out and I can figure out, and our job is to get the clients to understand it.
Well, and I think that's great that we kind of go into that topic, because it's the power of what we call the human economic value, and what the power of having that amount of money in protection for those that we love. Because yes, that check is never, ever enough. It's never, ever enough. And when we look at that economic value, which I'm happy for you to talk about how the power of that calculation is so smart, and for people to consider, because just a group life insurance benefit at an employer for $100,000 or $50,000 or $250,000, it's just not going to replace that person's economic value if they're making, let's say, $150,000 to $200,000 per year. How long would it help your surviving family, or your spouse or children, or both? How long would it actually help them benchmark to the future? And it's not just about having enough life insurance to pay off your mortgage. There's so many moving targets that we have to consider and think about.
And you have a great process, like we have a great process that points that out. And one of the things that we do to alleviate this problem is we sit with the clients and say, if I'm buying it, right, you're X age and you got 3 kids, and I'm going to provide the life insurance. I'm going to pay for it, but you're a great guy. Your wife's going to be the beneficiary. How much are you going to get? And after they think, okay, it's not a trick question, answer the question. And they say, $2 million. No, eventually we work our way to, well, as much as they'll give me. Right. Yeah. So maybe $6 million. If I'm paying for it, of course, you're going to go out and $6 million. Right. So if I can show you a way to own it with no additional out-of-pocket outlay or cost to you, and matter of fact, by owning it, you'll have more wealth than if you didn't own it at all. Would you get it? Yes. And then you can see the shoulders shrug. They go from here to here and say, wow, because they all want it. They just don't know how to pay for it.
Everybody wants life insurance. They just don't necessarily want to pay for it. And that's really where our talent comes in, to help them find the money to pay for what's really the most important asset that they'll ever have in their lives. I talk about, someone's number one asset, and it's truly them. And it's about designing it as the right way. It's, we can have term insurance all the day long, but the reality is we're probably going to be, living far past that 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And what do we do then? It's still just as important. I was just talking with someone a couple days ago, and they were saying, well, gosh, the kids are gone now, and we have this life insurance, and we don't know if we need it anymore. And I said, this is the most important time in your life to have that, because that occurrence will happen in the future, and it's an asset. It's an asset. So we've even talked about this asset being something as a permission slip to spend down other assets, because we have something that'll come in and replace that asset we just spent. So let's talk about, let's say, a 401k or an IRA, or even a savings account, or maybe it's an investment property. But the more we have in that permanent life insurance drawer will allow us to be able to spend down those other assets that normally we would just take maybe interest alone off of it. So it'll allow us to have a little bit more income, because we need it. Just like the 70-year-old lady that you were speaking to, she doesn't really have that permission slip in place to start spending down those IRAs.
Absolutely.
How do we do it? How do we make it work the best for us?
Well, we have to empower them. And if we can get to a point where we can show them how to own it, and it makes sense, and they understand actually how this is a savings account, and this is the best place to put your money, and all the ripple effects that it creates. And once we get past that, now we can kind of throw them into retirement mode and show them, look, this is how we're going to show you how to spend not only the cash value, but also the death benefit during your retirement years. So let's just use $1 million as an example.
Sure.
Client, they don't have $1 million. You have $1 million in your 401k. You don't have $1 million. You can't cash it in.
Right.
And you got to pay tax. If you wanted $1 million, and I love when they show a balance sheet, I've got $1 million. No, you have a debt, right, of $300,000. So you have what that $1 million can produce in income over your lifetime. Correct. Because if you say, I want to spend $80,000 a year, well, that's great, but your wife's going to look at you and say, you're crazy.
Right. You're going to run out of money in about 10 to 12 years. Yeah.
And I've got a lot of wants and needs and desires that when you're gone, I need that money to keep going.
Right.
So what we do is we show them how they can use the death benefit. It's signed away somewhere else behind a door with your name on it that says, hey, and like my dad said in the beginning, well, everybody gets rich when I die. No, Dad, you clients, you now get to spend your $1 million on you from 65 or whenever you call it quits, especially if you retire earlier, because there's pressure on your money to last longer. So now when you're 60 or 65 going to 85, or really when you're like 65 going to 75, that's when you can get around Italy. That's when you can get on in and out of Ubers and travel.
You can enjoy life more at that time.
And so you don't have to worry about really running out of money. We're going to make sure you don't run out of money. There's 20, 30 different strategies that we employ that allow us to spend that money.
Right.
But it's going to be way more aggressive and probably double the income than someone who just leaves the money there and draws off interest for income.
Well, it's the power of having multiple assets, making the
Yeah.
$1 work 2, 3, 5, 10 times versus just saying, okay, if the market shifts, my net worth just shifted. Well, it's about planning the right way and making sure that you have truly the dollars and cents that make sense for you and a real plan, because life expectancy today is going to be further and further and further down the road. We're going to be kicking the can further into our 90s than ever before. These are important things to consider. We want to make sure that you have all the dollars and cents working, but you want to have the permission slips in place so that you feel that you have more money that you could actually spend, and then also have more opportunities to spend that money in different ways, whether it's taking a reverse mortgage, if that's even something even on your radar in the future, or whether it's taking more principal and interest out of your investments because you have an asset that will replace that asset one day. And that's really what insurance should be. We want the maximum amount of insurance to protect all of our belongings that are material to us, but what about the maximum protection that we can have for our personal lives, because we're the best investment where we bring in the income. And again, what is that simple math? If you make $100,000 a year and you only have $1 million worth of protection, then how long is that money going to last for your spouse or your spouse and your children or wherever you want that money to go? And that might be at a very low interest rate, maybe 10, 11 years. So how do you want your goals, dreams, and desires to actually map out the future so that you feel that you're not going to run out of money? And, having a tool, every financial asset is a tool. And this is no different. Having a well-designed permanent life insurance contract is so important to your financial toolbox. And it's really hearing this message over and over again to understand that your very best investment is truly you. And like I talk about this in the book about Michael Jordan, if you were Michael Jordan and you could invest in yourself and he was the first man that ever incorporated himself, how much do you think he incorporated himself by investing in him, and he's that true asset? You don't have to be a celebrity to do this, but a call to action would be find out, get in touch with what your human economic value is. Google it. You'll understand. It's your age today multiplied by the time that you still have left to before you retire, and then put even just a cost of living increase on it of maybe 2%. You will be shocked. I did this calculation for a younger gentleman earlier today, and it was about having about $10,000 per month, or per month to spend, and $120,000 over his lifetime. And just at a 2% rate from let's say the age 35 to 65, that would mean that you need about $4.9 million in that retirement account when you get there to be able to spend the same amount of money lifestyle-wise when you get there. Well, those are kind of scary things to think about, because you're thinking, gosh, if I've only got $12,000 in my bank account and I've got to save up to $4.9 million with earnings, how is that going to protect my future so that I can have the retirement I want? This is something that Michael and I have talked about, and many people in our industry, we've talked about this, the power of having that asset already established with that life insurance piece. Because if you want to save $4.9 million, then if you have a permanent life insurance contract that says it's $4.9 million and you start putting money into it, that's what you're going to be working towards for that retirement goal. It's not going to work in every situation, but it's going to get pretty darn close. So I know the importance of talking about liquidity of money just in the event that there is an emergent situation or there is a life event that occurs. You want to make sure that you have the wherewithal to navigate and be able to commit your time, whether it's a child like in Michael's situation with Declan. It's so important to be able to be available for what that child might need. Or let's say it is a parent, or what if it's you? Making sure that you have every little piece covered. It's not just long-term care, but it could be disability protection. It could be, critical illness. It could be even cancer protection. We all know that we're going to be able to have these things in our lives. And, at one point we are guaranteed to die. Like they've always said, death and taxes, right? Well, if we know that that is true, and we know that in the crystal ball we could have as much of that protection as possible, but we just didn't want to pay for it, well, what if you can be receive the help to actually pay for those things, and it doesn't change your lifestyle and it doesn't change any money more out of your pocket? that's really the talent of what we're talking about here. Working with, a team that actually can help you with that quest for your own prosperity, to respect your financial situation, your responsibilities, and everything else that you've worked so hard for in your life. So I want to say thank you so much to Michael for being here today. I'm really grateful. Thank you for even listening to me the last couple of minutes. But
that's amazing. It's sums up everything.
Yes.
And say one last thing. It's,
sure.
What we're doing essentially is leveraging, one's future death, certainty of their death, with their current assets. And it's not an investment tool. It's a savings tool. And we're not comparing it to an investment, but it's the turbocharger. It's not the engine, it's the turbocharger. We, the clients, are the engine. And effectively, we can have effective rates of return with all the ripple effects that we're able to recapture, which I'm sure you show all your clients, a double-digit return that acts like an investment with all the guarantees, once you understand properly.
Well, and it's nice to have a guaranteed versus, a maybe, right? We like the guarantees in life. I haven't met anyone that doesn't like that. So
we can plan off a guarantee. We can't plan off a maybe. We can just hope. Hope's not a planning tool. This is a tool that can really restore certainty.
Yes. Well, good. Well, thank you again for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and we're really grateful for that. And we'll be right back, so stay tuned. We'll have some more things to talk to you about today. So thanks for tuning into Ways to Love Your Money. I'm Elisabeth Dawson. Thanks so much for listening to Ways to Love Your Money. It was a great interview today with Michael Worch, really dear friend of mine for many years. And what I want to say here is just be mindful. We talk a lot about the human economic value for people to really get an awareness of that. So, again, what I had said before was, if you make $100,000 a year and you are 35, that means that if you multiply that by 35 years, it's $3.5 million of economic income that's coming into your household. And if you're married and you have children or you're thinking about it, these are the numbers that an insurance company would actually give you for the maximum amount of insurance you should have. You need to be aware of all of the opportunities that you have with that, because when someone dies prematurely, how are they going to be taken care of? And if you don't think that there's a power of life insurance, this is where you need to get that education. I talk about your number one investment as being you. What is your number one investment? It's you. And think about it that way, because if you don't have an estate that's created that you could just pass down to your family or to your favorite charity or any part of your estate planning, then you need to fund it. You need to create that dollar amount. And the power of doing that is designing it with a real true advisor that's going to make you understand what the power of having that dollar amount in your life is all about. Because your goal is to save as much money as your human economic value. And if it's growing by 2% or 3% or 4% because you're getting raises each year, you can only imagine that $3.5 million number is going to be a much higher one. So I encourage you to take action about that. If you have questions personally for it yourself, give us a call. We'll help you find out what your human economic value is and how to pay for it. Our number is 619-640-2622. And I also encourage you to get a copy of the book. It's really what has, birthed this show. It's Wealth by Design. You can go to the Elisabeth with an S Dawson.com page and link right into the book. You can link right there for the podcast, so you can see all previous podcasts in our radio show as well, and all the different articles and everywhere that we have been writing for and also been physically seen on. So again, thank you for your help in our mission to talk and teach as many people as we possibly can that we have a privilege to speak to, just so that they can have more financial empowerment and a true purpose in their life when it comes to their finances and how it makes it work for them. So without further ado, we'll say goodbye for today, but it's only goodbye for today, and we'll see you back here shortly. So we can't wait for you to tune into the next Ways to Love Your Money. Again, I'm Elisabeth Dawson. Thank you so much for listening. The information provided in this show is for informational and educational purposes only. This show is not investment advice, nor is it intended to address the financial needs of any particular viewer. The opinions expressed on this show are not intended to be an endorsement of any particular investment, strategy of service, or any other kind. You must make an independent decision regarding investments or strategies mentioned throughout the show. Before acting on information in the show, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular situation and strongly consider seeking advice from a financial advisor.